Welcome to Unfiltered Summit Sisters. I'm Gina.
And I'm Julia.
We are two ride-or-die best friends who are paving the path for what true, authentic relationships look like.
We're facing hardships head-on, having real, uncensored conversations, supporting each other's growth, and shining a light on true, raw healing.
We are navigating the world the best we know how.
Having a hell of a time doing it.
Laughing every step of the way.
Through the rain
and sunshine.
This is Canyon Culture.
Welcome back to Unfiltered Summit Sisters. Today we are taking advantage of the sun being out, and this feels quote unquote warm. Now, people who don't live in cold areas, it's still like what, in the 30s and the 40s?
Yeah, Texas people, this is not warm to you at all.
No, we're still in coats and blankets, but we're not frigid.
Not just coats. I have 2 pairs of pants on.
Yep, same.
I have a hoodie under this too.
Yeah, same.
But I'm not cold.
Right, because
I feel great.
there's like different kinds of cold. There's the cold that penetrates all your layers. And then there's the cold that's just like the air's cold, but the sun is warm.
I'm finding that the wind makes a giant difference.
Wind is the worst.
It's horrible.
Like, bring on a light breeze in the summer, but in the winter, go away.
I think it was when we left to come up here, I think it was in the high 30s.
Down in the valley?
Yes, so it's got to be
colder.
For sure low 30s right now up here.
But the sun feels amazing.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. I'm comfortable.
There's a little cloud, and I need it to go because it definitely gets chillier with that.
My fingers are a tiny bit cold, but I'm comfortable.
I'm happy.
Yeah.
This view, not too shabby. So they're starting to shut down the different roads up the canyon that they don't maintenance for winter. So there's a couple of different, when you come up the canyon, it's one road, this specific canyon. Other canyons do it different. But this canyon, there's one road that comes in, but there's a couple of roads that veer off of it. And they shut those down at specific spots because they don't maintenance the whole canyon. The whole canyon all winter long.
Right.
And so they shut down the main one that goes all over. And it's very sad, but where we're at right now, there's a spot, like it's still open. And so we are taking advantage, which is kind of nice because I feel like we're exploring places we haven't been before.
I know, I love it. But I did hear that I think everything else will be closed either the 15th or the 20th. So by the time I get back.
Which is rude.
Yeah.
I'm not looking forward to it. But what's interesting is that so these mountains have been really important to me since I moved here. So I moved to Utah right after high school.
Mm-hmm.
And
Which
left.
was like 10, 12 years ago.
It's like 3. What are you talking about? By the way, it's almost 20.
What?
Next year is my 20th high school reunion.
What?
Yeah. Do you know how old that makes me feel?
What?
20.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
We are not old enough for that.
I apparently am. I graduated in 2004 and next year is 2024.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. So in October is my 19th year of living in Utah.
Wow.
So I have lived in Utah more than I've lived in California.
Okay.
That's a big deal for me.
Yeah.
So before I got married, so you and I live not that far away from where my parents live, just coincidentally.
Mm-hmm.
They live 5 minutes away, and in fact, their house is on the way to the canyon.
Yeah.
So they're 5 minutes closer to the canyon than we are. And they are in the same house they lived in when we moved here. And I just remember having a hard time with that move. I was leaving my boyfriend. I was leaving a job that I had planned, and all the plans for I had this whole plan for my life. And moving here derailed all of it. And it was a choice. Like I was an adult. Mm-hmm. It was a choice I got to make. But of course, when my dad comes, when dad comes to you crying, you listen because he's not a crier. So when he says, really think you should come with us to Utah, I was like, okay, I guess.
Yeah.
So derailed all that. So that move was hard. And these mountains did provide like this space for me to just I was driving up here every day after work. My mom hated it. She's like, we're going to find you dead in a ditch. And I was like, you may. It's a good place to go.
Hasn't happened yet, Mom.
So I got married and stopped coming up here and moved further away and didn't spend time in the mountains like I used to. But I'm noticing since the divorce, I'm spending more and more time up here. And this last year, 12 months, maybe 24 months, I've come up here a ton. So this idea of them closing down the canyon, I'm like, I'm feeling claustrophobic.
Right.
Because I'm doing so much of my healing and growing up here.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, I'm like, okay, I can breathe up there. I can take care of stuff up there. And they're shutting it down.
Mm-hmm.
So apparently God doesn't want me to heal anymore. I'm all victim-y about it. But this week has been a rough one. And it's interesting trying to it's hard to explain because the same words of I'm having a rough week, life is heavy, things suck, can apply for different seasons
Mm-hmm.
of, I don't have different words for it.
Mm-hmm.
So there's hard, like shit's hitting the fan hard.
Yes.
Like bills are coming, things are breaking,
Mm-hmm.
people are falling apart. There's that hard.
You don't have to talk about me like that on the podcast.
I feel like this is unfiltered, so you just have to suck it up. Right? Like there's that kind of hard and heavy where it's just rapid fire, thing after thing after thing coming at you, and you're just having to like navigate, dodge, and weave.
Right.
And then there's the heavy, which was this week, which God was like, here's something to heal. Here's another thing. Here's another thing. And you're like, could we do this a little slower? Could I breathe between? He's like, nope, go, go, go. And you're just like, crap.
Yeah.
And so I'm grateful for these mountains because at least I'm here
Absolutely.
doing it. But there was a conversation with neighbors about this ginormous house that is being built in Alpine. 50,000 square feet. That is over an acre of square footage.
That's insane.
So many square feet.
Yeah.
Could you imagine cleaning that?
Hell no.
I don't even want to do 3,000 square feet.
What would you even have to pay somebody to clean that?
I feel like you'd have to have a staff.
For
And they just
sure.
clean all day. That's
Right.
all. Like they just have maids that live there. Like
I
in
feel like
the
my
movies.
rent would be their cleaning budget.
Easily.
Right.
And so this person who's building it, it sounds like he has done this before, I think, with a house of his in San Diego, where he builds a ginormous house, but he uses it as like some sort of women's shelter, a women's retreat for abused, battered women.
Okay.
So I'm going to give him a
Okay.
little bit of a pass.
Okay.
So as we're having this discussion, and people are just talking about a little bit more about battered women or abused women or women who have been raped and stuff like that. And it's a more lighthearted on the topic, even though it's a serious topic. They're keeping it pretty lighthearted. And just, I think there was some celebrity that somebody brought up that had been convicted of raping women and stuff like that. And another person made a comment of like, oh, but did he really? And be like, yeah, like women lie. And I'm like, totally get it. And so I'm just sitting there quiet. I was super, super tired anyway. And so I didn't notice anything until the next day. I was up here and I was having my time with God. And I was like, I feel funky. I'm feeling funky, and I felt funky since last night, and I thought it was me being tired, but it's not going away, even though I didn't sleep that night anyway. But I just could tell. And this is the beautiful part about healing and growing, is I can feel when something, like, I'm sensitive to my body, I'm sensitive to my spirit, I'm sensitive to my emotions, that I could tell something's off.
Right.
So I'm talking to God about it. I'm like, what is going on? And all of a sudden it just hit me that so much of my story I kept quiet about because I didn't think people would believe me, and I didn't want to believe me. And I'm realizing that right now. I didn't want to believe that I was being treated that way. I didn't want to say the words that I was letting a man treat me in a way that was abusive.
Right.
And we do a lot of bringing things to light. We don't let things stay in the dark. And so I was like, hey, God, let's go. And the tears came, and that next layer of healing, he peeled away. And I almost felt it physically.
Wow.
And I am sobbing. And I'm talking to God, and I'm just realizing at the extent of the abuse on another level that this man put me through. Because that's a hard realization to live with.
Absolutely.
And so God is having to peel it away slowly. And we talk about that a lot, that we are going through layers. And so we do one layer of one topic, and then we're going to do it again, and he's going to give it a little bit more so that we can understand the grandiosity of whatever we're going through. And that was so heavy. I think I jumped on Marco Polo, and I needed a place to put it, and you're that place for me. And I just said all the things after I had talked to God, and I was just like, this is so painful right now. This is so hard to be in a realization, because I still feel the effects of the gaslighting. I still gaslight myself because I don't want to deal with that fact that I was treated that way. Like, it's even hard for me to say it now.
I know, I can tell. And I kind of want you to say it.
We'll see how the rest
Like,
of
and
it.
to give, and I want to pause and like give some insight to people who haven't been through this before. When you are in the middle of all of that, there's so much disassociation that is happening. Your vision is so clouded that you have no idea the depths, the darkness of what you're being subjected to and what you are walking through.
Yeah.
As you're talking, it brought back a memory for me where I was having to, for court purposes, I was having to go through and record things, and that was
Is hell. That is living hell.
it's pure hell to make survivors go through that. And I had, it was actually your sister.
She walked that with both of us.
Because I was like, there's no way that I'm going to be able to relive that and write it down for court. Are you
How
kidding me?
grateful I am, though, that we had to do that early on instead of later.
Yeah, we were
still.
in so it was kind of it was fight or flight.
Like on a whole nother level.
Yes.
On a
yes.
whole nother level.
And so it was
It's
just
a blur.
getting things done and moving and getting it down, and there wasn't any processing or healing going on.
There
It
was
was
no-
get right.
Facts, try not to feel the emotions, just get through it, trying to remember as much as you can.
Yes.
So that you have the evidence. Try and dig up as much as you can, but without feeling it, because if you did, that was a lot.
Right.
It's intense.
And I remember a specific moment. We were on a phone call, and she was helping write things down, and she would ask me questions.
Yeah.
And that phone call, that I will never forget that phone call, but I remember specifically telling her, maybe I didn't say no loud enough.
Right.
Maybe I didn't say it loud enough and he didn't hear. And she said,
That's not how that works.
that's not how that works, Julia. The main point that I'm trying to get across right now is you really don't realize what you're going through and what you're being subjected to while you are in it, or even immediately after. It's not till we're sitting here 5 years later.
Fucking years later.
Yes.
That's my issue.
Yes. And God's going,
You're
now
ready.
it's time. Now it's time for you to realize the truth of what you actually went through and walked through. It's time to bring that out of the darkness. It's time to let it stop festering and growing, and it's time to shine a light and take the power back from it.
Yeah. Because I don't want to take this into another relationship. I don't want to take this damage and this darkness into another relationship. I want to heal this here and now so that I have nothing. I don't want to be triggered. I don't want to be in a space where I am having to relive that with someone who didn't do that with me.
Right.
Well, there's a lot of it.
Absolutely.
But it's not. I said things to you on that Marco Polo of memories.
Mm-hmm.
And none of it were the darkest, but they were the ones that were the most common.
Right.
And I just, so much of it for me was being told that because I'm his wife, I just have to deal with it.
That pisses me off and makes me livid to none other. And I will say it fucking loud and clear right now. I do not give a shit if you are married.
Nope. No is no.
Nobody has rights to you. No means no.
What does Jared have us say? No man has the right to defile us.
Ever.
No
Not
man,
your husband, not anyone.
Nope. No man has the right to touch me.
Ever.
But that was not what was told to me.
Right.
I was a piece of property. I was his wife. So.
Right. And there's a scripture that people manipulate and twist a whole lot of, specifically speaking of physical aspects of marriage, right? Your bodies are each other's. Your bodies are each other's unless you mutually agree to take a break for a specific time period, is basically what it says. And people twist that, and women are being abused because of that shit.
And it's ridiculous.
Yeah.
It's a lot. It's a lot. So that was Sunday.
That was just one day.
That was just one day. I then went to church, and I'm sitting there surrounded by my babies doing our church thing and still feeling those effects in my body. And we're, having a reverent time during our service, and I am holding back tears because part of bringing it to light is remembering the things that I need to remember and taking and rewriting that.
Right.
So that's what I did for that day. And it wasn't planned. Nothing triggered it. I didn't have an experience with a man that made me feel like I needed to heal that. Or a woman, let's be honest.
It's 2023.
And
right?
that conversation wasn't triggering that I had with the neighbors before. It was a fine conversation. But it put enough of a ick in my past that I needed to figure it out.
Well, and I think ultimately, God decided that it was time to heal this part.
And I'm so grateful that that's how him and I can speak to each other now. That he can speak to me so small.
Right.
I didn't need a traumatic experience to be hit with, oh, I need to heal this. There was a simple, innocent conversation.
Right.
I mean, innocent in this realm of rape.
Right.
But innocent conversation where I didn't feel like I was being attacked. I didn't feel like I needed to stand up and say, that's not right. I get what people are saying.
Right.
Lots of women lie about it.
Right.
But the fact that resonated with me, that brought up fear, like, people aren't going to believe you because you're his wife and it doesn't count.
Right.
That still is in me. Like, even now, if someone were to talk to me and be like, what was your sex life like? I would still be hesitant to say my husband raped me because he's my husband and he gets to do that. That is still a belief that is in my body that I need to clear out.
But I think that's also one, I'm super proud of you that you were able to say that out loud just now, because that's huge.
You made me.
That's huge.
It is. It's a lot.
Second, it will also shine a light. Healing is not a one and done thing. It's not, you didn't just heal this on Sunday and check. Like, this is,
nope.
this is
Cried
something
about it yesterday.
Right. This is something that God is going to continue to work with you on and help you heal from. But it is going to take time, and it's going to take more than a day.
Well, and I also hate that the gaslighting of, because it wasn't violent, because there wasn't drugs involved, like I didn't get roofied, because it wasn't in a dumpster behind some bar, that it doesn't count.
Yeah.
Right? And that's where also my sister was like, nope, that's not how that works. No is no. And coercion is still right.
Yep.
And that's a lot. So that was just Sunday. And yeah, it was a great time. But I can sit in gratitude for that. Right? And that's the beauty of it, is I think that I'm healed enough and God is able to get rid of that layer of intensity, because I also have the capacity to see the good in it and to be strong enough to go, yep, we're going to feel these feelings and it's going to hurt, but I can also feel that gratitude.
I think that sometimes when especially bigger, darker, heavier things come up, there's a lot of intensity at first, and we have to move through that before we can do a lot of the important work.
Yeah.
Just getting all the intenseness, getting through that is...
Well, moving that energy, because the tears were a lot, right? Like, that kind of crying moves that energy. And when you're intentional with, for me at least, as I'm crying, I am intentional with, I am moving this energy out of my body. It is leaving my body.
Right.
We are exerting this for a reason. I'm not a victim. This is me taking my power.
Yeah.
I think that's important. But what's interesting is I feel that Satan uses these opportunities, and not that I'm in a weak space, but I'm in a vulnerable space.
Yes.
And he uses that because I am taking that opportunity to take it on head first. And I think we both do that he takes that opportunity and he pokes a little bit in other areas. So then it was the next morning in my car during my devotional time, again, Marco Poloing you, and crying because I'm feeling so alone and so unchosen. And with the clarity of, like, I have people pick me all the time. I have an amazing group of friends and family and relationships, but my partner's not here. And compared to what I did the day before, felt pretty minimal. But because Satan weaseled his way in there and planted some dark thoughts, made it another heavy day. So it's not like my car's falling apart or my kids are having a hard time. It's just the inner work that is hard and heavy. And then I think it was the next day that I did have a hard day with my kid.
Right.
And we haven't had a hard day like that in a while, but because I was so exhausted, like physically exhausted from that healing that I was doing, it felt like a ton of bricks.
Well, because your capacity was different that day.
And that's the part I don't understand, is I feel like every time that I'm working on myself, all of a sudden my kids need me tenfold. And I'm like,
Right.
I'm in the middle of this. Can you give me a couple more days so I can like have the energy and the ability to help you instead of falling apart?
It reminds me of that meme that I've seen across social media a billion times. Healing while being a mom is the hardest thing I've ever had to do.
It sucks.
It does.
Because when your babies are going through something, I'm like, okay, there it is again, pushing my stuff aside because I have to deal with them. They need me. But that, again, just that, those dark thoughts of you're not someone's number one. You're not the first person somebody thinks about in the morning. You're not the last person. You're not getting the good morning, the good night text. You know, having the amazing group of people, I don't feel lonely, but at the end of the night, everybody goes off with their people. And I go home by myself, which is why I spend my time at night up here. Right? I'm alone on purpose, not because I have to be. Now, the truth of all of that, like the true feelings behind all of that, that none of that's reality. And none of that gives me value. Having somebody give me a good morning and good night text, being that somebody's person, doesn't give me value. I'm valuable just the way that I am now, and I know that. And so I'm having to just work through those feelings and recognizing by bringing it to the light that that's just Satan weaseling his way in.
Absolutely. He's just taking and it's not, I don't even want to say weak because that's the wrong word, because it's not
Oh, that's
weak.
why I
What
said
you're doing
vulnerable.
is so strong.
It's a vulnerable space, though.
But taking that vulnerable space and going, hey, don't forget, you're going to bed alone tonight.
Yeah. Don't forget, Julia gets a boyfriend and you don't because you're not worthy. Because she's prettier, she's funnier, she's happier, she's sexier, so she gets a boyfriend because you, right? These are the dark thoughts that come in, and the part that's hard, well, there's a lot of hard parts, but what I'm recognizing is that I do have the power to go, nope, that's not it. As I'm working on my self-esteem, which I am doing so much of right now, actively spending time every day, understanding my value to my core, that I have to actively take those thoughts away, but that also takes energy.
Absolutely.
So it's exhausting. So even though, because when I Marco Polo'd you, you came back and you're like, you know that's not true, right? I'm like, yes, I do, but I have to work on it.
Right.
I have to say those things because those thoughts are coming in.
Right.
I know they're not true, but inside they're taking up space.
Right.
And I have to get rid of that. And that takes effort. I'm not strong enough where I have a shield where Satan gives me those thoughts and they bounce off. I'm not there yet. So it just takes up more and more energy. And the beauty of it all is that I learned to advocate for myself for what I needed. I recognized where I needed to put my time and energy with who that whole week to get myself to continue to be in the right headspace, coming to you with my raw, unfiltered thoughts without a thought in the world. I can just dump it was huge. Getting to, reach out to friends saying, I need to porch tonight. I need to laugh. I need to not think about things.
Right.
And I need a minute to just laugh. And to have that. And to listen to the Spirit. And the Spirit told me to go get a hug from Grandpa. And to have such an amazing conversation with him, which led to him giving me a painting that he had commissioned for my grandma that has so much meaning with prayer and to them. And that he felt led by her to give it to me was such a special moment. So I got to have this moment of, you're not chosen, you're no one's number one, to, even if that is true, because I don't have a partner. So like not in a victim space,
Right.
just in a literal sense.
Right.
To, yeah, but when I ask for what I need, everybody showed up for me. I asked for that space with you and you gave it to me unconditionally. And you gave it to me so fully, where I didn't doubt. I could say the ugliest things. I could say the most victim thing, and you held space for that. Right?
Yeah.
I had a group of friends give me that space and made me laugh so hard. I got to have that connection with my grandma, who passed away 5 years ago.
Right.
And I got to have that connection with my grandpa. as much as healing is hard and difficult, so quickly was I able to move out of that into that space of gratitude and be able to see all the ways that Satan is wrong, see all the ways that I am growing. The fact that I dealt with such heavy stuff on Sunday and then was able to deal with heavy stuff on Monday, and we're Friday, and I'm like tired as hell, but I'm functioning-ish. I don't know.
Absolutely.
I almost feel like there's nothing but gratitude here.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's pretty incredible.
It is.
But this is a big week.
I am grateful for Morgan, for your sister. She walked, I'll speak for myself, she walked me through a lot of really difficult parts of the divorce that needed to be dealt with, that needed to be written down, that needed to have attorneys needed certain things, and the things that I had to relive and walk through. I could not have done that without her. She was so sensitive and gracious, and had to ask and talk about a lot of really hard fucking things.
Mm-hmm.
And I felt so cared for with all of that. So I'm really grateful for the role that she played during my divorce.
I think for both of us, I don't think either of us would have been able to get out of it without her.
No.
So she played a very, very significant role in both of us having our freedom. So I think I just want to end with this idea of giving women the understanding and space that you are not anyone's property. That abuse is abuse is abuse, and there is no contract, there is no agreement that holds weight that you have to sit through that.
Absolutely.
Even in my religion, where when we get married, it's a covenant that you make with God and this partner, and it is eternal.
Mm-hmm.
As soon as one person breaks that covenant, it is gone. It is done.
Right.
And abuse is part of that.
Mm-hmm.
And that is a lesson I had to learn. And it, but I love what you said, that when they show you their true colors, believe them.
I know, you're getting me all fired up right now. We should end this because I'm ready to like preach a sermon right now.
Perfect. Okay. Well, sorry for the heavier topic, but what a better place to do it than a pretty place.
Here. I know, she just takes it all and she cleanses it and we get to leave it here.
Thank goodness.
Thank you for listening to this week's episode of Unfiltered Summit Sisters.
Come join us on Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok to get a sneak peek into our lives.
It's beautiful, chaotic, crazy, and fun.
What else would you expect raising 10 kids?
All the links you need are in the show notes.
See you next week.